Welcome to Designing Instructional Activities with Google Drawings, presented by the Technology Training Team. Please follow us on Twitter at T3PGCPS and visit our website at bit.ly/T3PGCPS. We are your design crew for today. My name is Clarissa Burton.
Hi everyone, I am Kim Robertson. Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Marian Santos.
Hi everyone, I'm Jake Voschel.
And we welcome you today to T3's Paint and Sip, where we'll be using Google Drawings to design instructional activities. So why Google Drawings? So Google Drawings has an unlimited amount of possibilities. It is a blank canvas where if you can think it, you can create it. And it is a Google app, so you have that ability to easily share and collaborate. As we get started, we're going to start by looking at some ideas for the classroom. And we're going to look at a variety of different things you can do with that blank canvas. And I'm going to start with the drag and drop type of activities. So when I think of drag and drop, I think of the activities I did with my students in elementary school where they were cutting and pasting. But if you teach high school or middle school, you can also use it to have them match different types of, maybe they're doing a graphing equation and they're going to match the answer. So their possibilities for drag and drop can go across grade levels. So just going to pull up one example here of a solar system. So you'll see there's the map of the solar system and you would have to drag in the planets from Google Drawings. You also can use social media. So we know our students use social media at home all the time, and you can recreate that experience within Google Drawings. So for example, maybe you're going to have your students do an Instagram story of their summer vacation. So we like to kind of recap on what their summer was like, and they could use an Instagram story for Google Drawings to represent that. So you'll see there's a template of Instagram here. And if you wanted to use this template, you would go up to the top and right and select Use Template. Or maybe you're going to do a texting conversation. So we know in the digital environment, digital citizenship is really important. So one way you could have your students practice how to communicate on Zoom is through a texting conversation. So a nice safe place for them to practice using that chat feature. And just some other examples, digital posters, which we are going to create in a moment. You can do infographics, drag and drop timelines, or insert text into timelines. And then this last link here that you have available are 25 different graphic organizers. So that can go across all grade levels and subject areas from Matt Miller's Ditch That textbook. So all of those graphic organizers are available for you. All right, so let's get started in creating. So we're going to start by creating a back to school poster. And when I was in the classroom, I would go to the teacher's store and I'd buy this pack of back to school posters that my students were going to create. But now we're going to do that in a digital environment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a quick show on what we're going to do all together. And then you're going to be able to create that, and I will go slow and create that on your own. All right, so our final product here is going to look like this. So you'll have that name and the different shapes where they will insert in their favorites. So I'm going to get started here on a Google Drawing. So the first thing we're going to do for this activity, so again, I'm just going to quickly show you what we're going to do, and then we're going to go slow together. Is in Google Drawings, the first thing you're going to want to do is change the page layout. So if you decided to put this up in your classroom, it could print out on paper. So I'm going to go to File and choose Page Setup, and I'm going to change that from Standard to Custom, and this is going to be an 11 by 8.5 inches, and select Apply. Now I've just changed that page layout to paper size. We're going to change the background by right-clicking, and I'm just going to make it white to match paper. Obviously, we can do lots of different colors in Google Drawings here to change that background. From there, we're going to add in 5 different shapes. So in the toolbar, there's the shape icon. So one of the shapes is the banner where we are going to write our name. So that's all the way down underneath shapes to that second to last column. And it's that 4th icon over. And I'm going to click that and drag out. And then the next shape is going to be an oval. So I'm going to select shapes. I'm going to go down to that 2nd column and select oval. From there, we're going to select all. I'm going to make the shapes transparent, leaving that background color black. We're going to change the weight to 8. And then from there, we will add in text into these boxes. So the first one was, my name is. I will highlight, and we're going to change that font. So I'm using permanent marker, and in a minute, I'm going to show you where to find the different fonts here. So we'll add those in. I do have these other shapes that I already added in for time, just so you can see where those will be. And then the next step would be adding in the image. So I'm going to search the web. And what's great about searching the web here in Google Search is we can look for transparent images. So you'll see I've typed in phone and transparent. So that just means the image will show up on your poster without a background. So that image is here. I'll drag it to make it a little bit bigger. And then we're just going to tilt it to the side. And the final step that we're going to all do together is adding in the text box. So that is my first day selfie. And what's really great about Google Drawings is when your students get this, they can use their webcam to take a picture. So they can actually add in a picture of themselves of their first day of school. All right. So those are going to be the different drawing techniques that we're going to all do together. And we're going to go through each step, including how to get to those dotted lines. So if that circle here, which I did not change the dotted lines, I'm going to go up to the top, and next to border weight are the border dashes. And that's where I'm going to change it to those dashed lines there. And the oval was, I am good at. So you will have that finished product. All right, so let's get started. Let's design this poster all together. I'm going to go through this nice and slowly for you so we can get those basic drawing techniques down before we go to our breakout rooms. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go into your Google Drive in your Google Chrome browser. So if everyone can get into your Chrome browser, and then go to your Google Drive. So anytime you're in the Chrome browser, if you hit those 9 dots up at the top right, Drive is going to be that option for you there for that triangle. So we'll go here, and you can insert that and go to your Google Drive. So I'll give everyone a minute to get there. And absolutely, we can insert in Bitmojis into Google Drawings. So the Bitmojis we would copy from our extension toolbar and paste them in. All right, so we're in our Google Drive. So to get to Drawings, so you'll notice Drawings isn't in the app launcher over here, but it is underneath New. So I'm gonna go over to the left-hand side, and I'm gonna go all the way down after I select New, I'm gonna choose More, and you'll see Google Forms, and underneath that is Google Drawings. So that's where we're gonna find Google Drawings. So everyone's going to go to Drive, select New, and then select Google Drawings. So that's going to open up a blank Google Drawing. From here, we're going to want to title our Google Drawing. So just like some of the other Google apps, the title is going to be at the top left-hand side. So I'm going to recommend you can use Back to School Poster or another creative title you can think of. So you're going to title that poster. All right, after we title, we're going to change the page layout. So we're going to make this paper size. So if you do decide to print these later on for your virtual classroom or for your home at this point, you can do that. Or maybe when we're back in our buildings, you'll have something for your students to look forward to seeing. So we're going to go up to the top. We're going to select File. And we're going to go down to Page Setup. So you'll see Page Setup all the way down towards the bottom. We're going to change it from that standard 4x3, hit that drop down arrow and choose Custom. Now we're going to do a horizontal paper here, so we're going to do 11 by 8.5. It's standard to be in inches. If you needed to change that to something else, centimeters or pixels, you'd hit the drop down arrow, but we're going to use inches and then select Apply. All right, so now we've changed the paper size and now we're going to change the background color. You can choose a different color other than white. I'm going to choose white today. So what you're going to do is right click on top of the canvas and you're going to go down to background. And so you have a lot of different colors here, some gradient colors. I'm going to choose white just to have that paper look. So our next step will be adding in 5 shapes. So we're going to do a banner, an oval, a cloud, a curved rectangle, and then a call out with 10 sides. So in my toolbar, I'm going to go over and you'll see that circle with the square. We're going to select that icon. And we're going to go down underneath where it says shape. So we're going to start there. Now I like to start with the banner just because it's at the top. So we're going to go all the way down to that second to last column, and it's that 4th one over. So I'm going to select that. Then I'm going to draw this onto my canvas. So I'm going to select the canvas and drag across. So that's going to load in our banner. And we are going to change this color in the background altogether at once. I'm going to show you a quick tip on how to do it all at one time. So then the next step, we have to add in the rest of our shapes. So I'm going to select shapes again, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to choose that oval, second column, first object. I'm going to select the canvas and then drag out to create that oval shape. Let me click off of that. I'm going to go back to my shape again. And then we're going to go down and we're going to choose the cloud. So the cloud is the 4th column down and it's all the way at the end next to the moon. I'm going to select that cloud. I'm going to click on my canvas and drag out. And you can rotate the shape if you want just a little bit. At the top of the squares, you're going to see that little round circle where you can click and rotate the cloud. I'm going to rotate that a little bit to the left. So we have 2 more shapes left. We're going to select the shape. We're going to go down and I'm going to choose that second icon in the first row. So the cloud is underneath shape, 4th column down all the way at the end, right here. All right, so the next shape is a rounded, a rectangle with the rounded edges. So that's that second icon in. When we go into shapes, first row, second icon. I'm going to click my canvas and drag out. Make this just a hair bigger. There we go. And then we have one final icon that we are going to add. And that icon is underneath callout. So we're going to go shapes again, and then you'll see shapes, arrows, and callout. We're going to go to callouts, and I use the 10-sided callout. So you'll see that they have numbers on the number of sides that they have. I'm going to choose 10. And it was just because I like the look of it. So you can choose any of that you like here. I'll drag that in so it fits on the paper. And then I'm going to rotate this one similar to the cloud. So at the top of that box, you'll see that circle. You're going to click that little circle at the top of the box and drag this one to the right. Now you should have 5 shapes on your canvas. Now we want to make them transparent, and we want to make that border weight a little bit bigger. So the quick trick to getting these all highlighted at once is you're going to click outside of the canvas, you're going to hold down, and you're going to drag all the way across, and you'll notice it highlights all of the shapes. So we do this for grouping, but you can also use it for design. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go up to that paint bucket in the toolbar, so that's almost right in the middle of my screen. I'll select the paint bucket, and I'm going to choose transparent. So this is just the inside of the shape is going to be see-through. Next to that, you're going to find the border color. So the border color right now is black. If you want to make the shapes different colors, you select them individually and select the color you want. I am going to leave them black for now. And then next to that, the border's weight. The border weight. So that's how thick the border is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to choose 8. It makes that border nice and thick so they can see it. And then I'm going to come off that screen for now, because now I want to change the outline of the shape. So I did leave the banner here a solid border just because it's that first one. But this oval underneath it, I'm going to select that. I'm going to go to border dash. So next to those 3 lines where we chose the border weight, we're going to use those dashes, the lines next to that, to change the outline. So the third one, oh, I'm sorry, it's the second to last one is what I used for the circle. So just some thick borders. You can choose whatever borders you want here. Just kind of gives the page a little bit of style. I'm going to choose the cloud. And the cloud, I also did those long dashes as well. For that 10-sided call out, I did the last option under the style board out. So I did the line and then the dot. And then for that rounded rectangle, I used the small dashes, so that third one down. So if you can't find where the option is for the dash borders, make sure you've selected the shape first, and then you should have that option where the paint bucket is and the bordered weight. So that's going to be next to those 3 lines for border weight, where you'll see the border dash. So now we have the 3, all of our shapes, they're in the right place and they have the borders. So we're going to go ahead and add in the text. So the first box was my name is, and I'm going to change the font altogether in a minute. The circle or the oval was I am good at. So this can be anything that you'd want to know about your student. For the star, or for the call out with 10 size. Let's see. I use my favorite movie is. In the cloud, I said my dreams are. And in the rectangle with the rounded sides, I did 2. I did my music list, and then I entered 2 times, and then I did my favorite shows. All right, so to add in that text, I double clicked in the shape itself. It gave me that text box, the dotted or the blinking line there to add in text. So double click in the shape to add in the text. All right, so now we want to change the font for all of this. So you can do just how we highlighted the shapes before to change all the borders in the transparent background all at once. You can do that to change the text. So I'm going to click outside of my canvas and drag across. So now all of my text and shapes are highlighted. So I can actually go up to the middle of my toolbar, and where you see Arial here, you can hit that drop down arrow and choose a font. So you can choose any of the fonts listed. The font that I chose, Permanent Marker, might not be listed for you. So what you could do is underneath the initial Arial here, you'll see where it says More Fonts. You select More Fonts. You can search for any type of font you may be interested in. So there are a lot of fonts that are available in Google Drawings. So again, I use Permanent Marker. So if you wanted in that search box, you could type in Permanent Marker. You'll see mine is checked. Yours might not be. Yours might be black like this. But if you click on it, it will turn blue. That means you're interested in that font. It will be added to your font collection, and you'll select OK at the bottom. So now Permanent Marker should be available for you. It might not be under recent. You might have to scroll down to where the P's are to find your new added font, Permanent Marker. And once I select it, you'll notice that all my fonts changed at once. You can also change the font size all at once as long as they are all selected. So I know they're all selected because I have this big blue box all around them. I'm going to choose the size, and I'm going to make a size a little bit bigger here. That's a little too big on 30, so let's try 24. Maybe 18 is a little bit better there. All right, so there's a few more things we need to do here. Before we move on, you'll notice on, let's say, the rectangled square, my font is in the middle of this box. So one thing you're going to want to do is move that font to the top. So if I select that rounded rectangle in my toolbar, if you go up to where you see next to the comment button, that little the little chat bubble icon, you'll see where it says align. So you can align it center, but underneath that is where you can distribute the text and move it up to the top, center it, or to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to the top. So I'm going to select that up arrow with the line on top of it, and it's just going to push my music list to the top. And I can do that with all my shapes here to adjust so that that font is at the top and your students have a little bit more room to type. All right, so we have two more things before we have a finished product here. So one is going to be adding in that image. So we're going to go up to Insert in the toolbar. So from Insert, you're going to go down to Image, and we're going to search the web for that transparent phone. So I'm going to choose Search the Web, and I'm going to type in phone and transparent. There are a lot of different options to choose from. I'm choosing this one on my screen. It is the fourth one down, so second row, fourth phone. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to choose Insert at the bottom right. Will pop up on our screen, and I'm just going to drag that bottom corner out to the left to make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to go up to the top where that circle is at the top, and I'm going to tilt it just a little bit to the left. There. All right, so the last piece that you have here is to add the text box to add that first day selfie. So in that toolbar, next to where we used shapes earlier, you're going to select the T for text box, select the screen, and you'll type in first day selfie, my first day selfie. going to go ahead and drag in that bottom right-hand corner just to make that text box a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to go up to that top circle that we've been using to tilt shapes. And I'm going to click that circle and tilt it to the left. If you double click inside the box, it will highlight the text. So if you click on that, it will highlight the whole text. So you can change it to permanent marker if that's the font you're choosing. And then you can change the font size so it fits inside your phone. And then you have a back to school poster that is ready to go for your students to use for that first week back to school. And remember, you can put this into Google Classroom, make a copy for each student so they all have their own back to school poster to work on. All right, so now we've done that. Our next thing we're going to do today is we're going to break out into 2 rooms to learn some different skills. So a prerequisite to this class is we asked you to fill out a Google form to decide which room you'd be interested in learning more about. So there's a follow me, and we're going to make a drag and drop activity, or we have an open studio for lesson design with Jake and Marianne. Well, you will learn a little bit there. So we're going to go to breakout room. So in a moment, you'll notice that we all kind of will break out. So just wait for that to happen here. All right, so welcome to Follow Me for Drag and Drop. So the first thing we're going to do is get started on a blank canvas, just like we did with that back to school post. Or we're going to go to our Google Drive, and you're going to go up to that top left-hand side and select New. Go down to More, and you're going to choose Google Drawings. So this is a drag and drop, and when the students get it on their device, they'll be able to click on the object and drag it in to where it matches on the poster itself. And I use the dash lines here just because when we create those cut and paste activities, they always had those dashed lines that knew you're supposed to move it. So that's what the final product's going to look like. You can adapt it to your needs. So it's just really learning the skills here so you can take it and apply it to your classroom. All right, so now you have that blank canvas. All right, so I'm going to call this drag and drop activity. So I'm going to title at the top left. So you can title that at the top left, whatever you want to call this activity here. From there, we're going to change the background. You can again change the background to whatever color you might be interested in. Google Drawings and being online is a great time to kind of get creative with colors because we can't do that on paper that we use in our copy machines, right? We only can have that black and white copy. So feel free to use colors because now's the time we can get really creative. So I'm going to select background. So I'm right clicking, I'm going to select background, and then I'm going to go over and I'm going to choose white just to have that white background like paper. But feel free to choose any color there. Once we have our background color, we're going to choose to make a text box. So the text box is going to go at the top. So I'm going to select that T in my toolbar and then click on my screen here. I'll absolutely go back on how do we get to the canvas itself. So I'm just going to pause for a moment. I'm going to go back to my Google Drive. So you were always going to start with Google Drive for Google Drawings inside your Chrome browser. And that's just because Drawings is underneath that New tab at the top left. So select New and go down to More. So underneath Forms, you'll see Google Drawings. So that's where you'll find Google Drawings. Once you click Google Drawings, it will take you to getting to the blank canvas. So for this one, I didn't change the page size and the page layout, but you are welcome to if you wanted to change the page layout. I just did not for this example. I'm not going to be printing it out. I'm going to be putting it into Google Classroom. So if you want to leave it on the size it is, you can do so. All right. So I'm added that text box here at the top. Just a reminder, text box is in the toolbar. It has that box with the T inside. I'm going to double click in the box and I'm going to type in directions. Now in Google Drawings, I really like to use the gray space for directions, but for this activity in particular, it's for primary grades, and I just wanted the directions right in front of the student so they could see it. So I'm going to type in, put the number in the correct box under the animal with the correct amount of hay. I'm going to drag that text box out so we have the directions here at the top. I'd like to make them a little bit bigger in bold directions. Oftentimes when we give activities to students, directions is bolded so they know that this is read first. And if I double click that text there, I have the ability to change the font. So whatever font that you may find that you want to use to give directions. I chose Century Gothic, which again, you might not have in your standard font. So if you don't have it there, you can go up to more fonts. And here you'll choose at the top in the search bar, you'll type in Century. There you go. Century and Century Gothic will pop up. Yours might be black, but if you select it, it will turn blue, and then you'll select OK to add it in. Just a font we like to use here in T3. So I'm going to select Century Gothic. And then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. It's on 14 now, so I'll move it up to 24, just so it really stands out on my page. So from here, we're going to add in one shape because before we added in different shapes, but here we're going to use one. And I'm going to show you how to kind of keep them the same size as we go throughout our Google Drawing. So we're going to go up to that toolbar where we used shapes before, that circle and the square. I'm going to select shapes. I'm going to go down to that first icon, shapes, and I'm going to choose the first one in the first row for that square. And I'm going to drag this out. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. I'm going to go about 4.5 and 4 down. So if you notice in Google Drawings, you do have a little ruler at the top and a ruler at the side. So you can use that to kind of gauge how big or small you want objects to be. So I do sometimes use that ruler a little bit in Google Drawings. So I have my square here. I'm going to change the square and I'm going to go up to the paint bucket and I'm going to make this square transparent so it's see-through. I will leave the border black. You can change it if you want. And then I'm going to change the border weight this time to 4. So it's going to be a little bit thicker, but not as thick as our last poster. And I'll leave it that solid color. Now we have one square. So the trick is here, how do I get 4 squares the same size? So the trick is you're going to duplicate them. So to do that on a Mac, you're going to choose Command D. So you're going to hit Command D at the same time. On a PC, you're going to do Control D. I'm going to do Command D. It's going to copy that exact shape at the exact same size. I'm going to do that a few more times. So I'm going to Command D again, and then we'll have 4 boxes the same size. Then I'll just drag them so they're placed on the paper where I'd want them. All right. So now you have 4 boxes you quickly made. They're all the same size and perfect. So duplicate is a great way to copy and paste without having to go through all those steps. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add those squares where they're going to drag in the numbers. So I'm going to go back up to my shapes. I'm going to pull that same rectangle I used for the big boxes. So I'm going to go back to shapes, first row, first shape. And I'm going to click and drag out a little rectangle here. Now this one I left with that blue background just so it stood out a little bit more. You can change that color by selecting the paint bucket. I did leave the color as black, so if you want to leave black, that's fine, or you can change it. The border weight, I'm going to make the border of 4, so a little bit thicker. And this time I use the border dash. So next to border weight, you're going to select border dash. And we're going to do the third one down that looks like that cut, that dashed line on a piece of paper where we know it's going to be a cut. So now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this 4 times for these squares. So I'm going to do Command D again and drag out. I'm going to drag those 4 shapes. So I quickly added 4 of the same size shapes to each of my boxes. And then for this part, you're going to do Command D again. Oops. Make sure you select the shape first. Command D, and we're going to pull those shapes out to the side into that gray area. So if you were to print this out, anything in the gray area will not print. But in Google Drawings and on digitally, that gray area they can use. So anything I use for drag and drop, I put everything I want the students to pull in that gray space. Now, these boxes are not in line, okay? Their spacing is not equal. Now, that might bother you, it bothers me, and there's a quick and easy way to fix that because I like everything to be even. So if you click outside of those 4 rectangles on this gray area and drag, we're going to highlight all 4 of those boxes in that gray area. So a quick little tip here is if you go up in your toolbar to arrange, you can distribute. So I'm underneath arrange, I'm going to go down to distribute, and I can distribute these vertically so that they're all in line together. Well, first I'm going to center them. So I'm going to go down, there we go. I'm going to go to align and I'm going to choose to center them first. So I'm going to go down to arrange and align and I'm going to center them. So now they're in a straight order, and then just make sure I distribute them correctly. I'll go to arrange and then to distribute and vertically. So now they are perfectly straight and distributed evenly. So just a quick way to do that without having to use your mouse to kind of make sure they're in the perfect spot. So the next piece we're going to do is add in some numbers. You can choose any numbers you want. I'm going to double click inside that rectangle and choose some numbers. So I'm going to use 3, 6, 2, and 8. So from here, I'm going to highlight those boxes again, and I'm going to just make the text the same. So I'm going to go back up to Arial, and I'm going to choose Century Gothic just to keep everything the same and similar. I'm going to choose to make the size a little bit bigger so it fills up the box. So instead of, there we go, instead of 14, I'm going to put it down onto 60. It fills up that whole box there. And then just to make it look prettier, I like to center the numbers in the middle of the box. So in the toolbar, if you go to next to where you see the speech bubble for comments, you'll see where it says align, and you're going to choose that center icon. So you'll have the left alignment and then center alignment next to that. So then the numbers are perfectly centered and your boxes are aligned and distributed equally. All right, so we have the foundation of our piece. Now we're going to add in those images. So to add in the images, I went to Insert in my toolbar. I chose Image and I searched the web. So I went to Insert, Image, Search the web. And here I just typed in farm animals and I chose clip art. So anytime you type in clip art, kind of gives you the cartoonish looking figures. So I add that piece in just so it searches because I wanted them to be kind of cute. So I chose the pig here. And I'll go down, I chose the sheep. And then this cow. And then if I scroll a little bit more, they had the chicken. So you can select all of the objects you want underneath the filler, underneath farm animals for clip art. Once you've selected the shape or the images, you'll then go down and select insert. So you can choose different images. These were the ones I chose. They do pile all on top of each other, so you do have to click and drag them off each other and make them a little bit smaller for our activity here. So if I click on the image themselves, I can drag in from the bottom right-hand side, drag in, and it will make the shape smaller. And I'm just dragging them out to the left so they're off of my canvas and easier to work with. All right. So from there, I put them so it looked like they were kind of standing on the box a little bit. So you may have to make them a little bit smaller so that they do fit inside the boxes. So again, dragging in from the bottom left or right will help to make them smaller. And one thing to note is when you do drag in from the corners instead of the sides, it just helps keeping the image the same shape and size that it originally was without getting pixelated. All right, so you have 4 farm animals here. And the next thing you need to add in is the hay bucket for these animals. So I went to insert image and I searched the web again. And to find this one, I looked underneath pail and I typed in pail and clip art. And you do have to scroll down a little bit to find this one. So I tried to find one that looked like a farm bucket. And then again, clicking from the bottom right and just dragging all the way into the top to make them a little bit smaller. And then for this one, we're going to use that duplicate option again to make multiple buckets. So Command D. So your buckets are then the same size on all of your squares. I'm just watching time. We have 2 minutes left. There's one more piece that we're going to use before we move on and back into the main room. So there's 3. These shapes, I would probably also align them and distribute them similar to what we did on these squares on the outside gray area. But for now, I'm just going to leave them the way they are. All right, so the last piece you want to do inside Google Drawings is you want to group the main piece here so that the students aren't dragging this everywhere. So to do that, you're going to click outside the gray area and you're just going to drag across the canvas itself. So don't go into the numbers that are on the right-hand side. Just stay within the canvas and it's going to select everything we have here. So you'll see the directions, the buckets, the animals are all highlighted. From here, go up to Arrange and you're going to choose the option to group. So it's just going to make them all one so they can't move those objects everywhere. So I just grouped this whole piece together. So again, I highlighted everything inside that white canvas. I chose Arrange and Group. So now this is one image itself, so they can move the whole thing if they wanted it, but it's all grouped together. And if you want to make edits, you do have to go back to Arrange and ungroup them. And one thing to note before we do leave, typing inside of shapes is one of the best ways to keep students from moving text outside of the boxes. So it's just one shape here. All right, before waiting to be pulled into that main room, before we do, one thing to note, you can move objects in the order that they are. So if this object, you'll notice it went behind this one. In order to change that, and I do like to test things out first, you can go to Arrange, choose Order, and then select Bring to Front, and that just makes sure those objects stay in the front of this one that we grouped here. So you'll see now it's in front. This drawing can definitely be downloaded. If you go up to File in the top left-hand side, you can go down to Download, and you can make this an image or a PDF if you like. So that option is there for you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this breakout session. We're going to be taking a look at Open Studio lesson design. So we're going to leave the presentation. We're going to take a quick look at a completed version of a syllabus. So the syllabus that I created was for a course called Comic Books in Literature. So it looks like a standard poster, but the things that I want to make sure that we point out, because I'm using Google Draw, I've got a lot of extra elements that I'm able to add in. The title for the course, Comic Books in Literature, is not actually a text box. This is using word art. So we'll take a look at how to add that in. You can still adjust the font size, the font style, but then you also get to add in the extra features like that red highlighting that's going on in the background, that drop shadow. Some people had asked earlier about the Bitmojis. You'll notice that I've got two different Bitmojis here. One in the comic book store of myself, and one standing up at the side looking very superhero-ish. Again, I did a different drop shadow with my name here. I inserted an image. These are two separate images here, but we're also going to go over how to add in and crop pictures or photos that you grab in. So this one I did rounded corners because I thought it would look a little bit nicer. On this contact information box here, we've got email, and if I clicked on the email, it's going to open up to be able to send an email. If I clicked on my Twitter account, it's going to take you there or to my website. So all three pieces of information are available for you. We've got additional pieces of clip art up here. We've also got some extra icons. For the late work, I've got a little icon here with a man running after the car. This is the only text that's just lorem ipsum text, and it's just thrown in information, just kind of not real words, but kind of filler. Each one of the boxes I did in a slightly different color or style, excuse me, intentionally show all of the features that are available within Google Draw. So this, under course goals, the box that is built around has a gradient background. And then for each one of the criterion, read, research, create, I've got a different emoji that I added in. I grabbed in another box down at the bottom, slightly changed the text, two more pieces of icons, and then did a little graph down here. Some things that are kind of subtle that aren't necessarily acknowledged when you're building something. Having the grading scale and then throwing in the swoosh arrow there. You'll notice that the purple along the bottom, that's actually an extra element that was added in, as well as the background color. So some of those Clarissa mentioned earlier, but we're going to kind of walk through several of these, as well as some other elements that we're going to add in as we do. So one of the things that I want to make sure that you point out there is pointed out for you, this version is in preview mode. So when I built this in Google Draw, to get ready for this, I went ahead and hit show preview mode, and that's going to give you the completed model. That's what it's going to look like when it's completed. If I go up here to the corner and I hit close preview, it's going to take me back and you'll see the entirety of my Google Draw space. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, this center section, which is what we just looked at, that's the working space. Anything outside of that canvas, this is additional information that I've added in to make available for you, or conversely, for your students. So if I wanted my students to give me information about themselves, their family, let's learn about what you did for the summer, let's learn about your family history, let's learn about what books that you've read. It could be about careers that you're looking into. Whatever the topic is that you come up with, students can use Google Draw, create everything, and you can give them the information. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Take this template if you wanted to, alter what you want it for, and it gives them the information of exactly what is expected of them. And in this instance, you would be able to go in and replicate and build from there. So you're going to get two different versions of this template. One is going to look just like this. It's going to have all my information, comic books and literature, my pictures, my grading scale, all of those pieces. And what we're going to ask that you do is, when it says change the background color, you're going to right click or control click if you're on a Mac, click on just the background, and you'll go down and you're going to change background and change the color. So I'm going to make it super dramatic and I'll change it to blue. Okay, so part of the job in working with Google Draw is making sure that people understand the aesthetics and what that does. As soon as I change that background to blue, you'll notice that my pie chart kind of got funky because that's the color blue that I used. My words and things at the top kind of got mushed around. So being able to play with some of that, I'm going to go ahead and put it back to a pretty subtle color in the background. It's a little less in your face with what we're doing. So changing the background color, you're going to select the background, do a control click or a right click, depending on your device, choose background, and you can do transparent if you wanted to. Choose any of the colors, or you can use a gradient. So there's pre-built gradients that you can choose from as well. So just super quick, I want to show you what the blank version of this looks like, and this will be posted with the information for you. The blank version, same exact thing. Directions are listed. Directions are slightly different because it's going to ask you to add elements that weren't on the template. We're going to build from the template that was already created. So we're altering the one that's there instead of building from scratch. But you're going to have access to this one as well. So step 1 was change the background color. So again, I'll go to background. I'll choose my background color and then go from there. Step 2, insert and edit the word art font. Okay, so then you're going to go through and build those pieces. So if you want the blank version, you're going to go ahead and use T3 version Google Draw Syllabus Revised and build that from there. If you want to build, and this is the one we're going to build from, you can go ahead and make the adaptations from here. So you've got either choice that you'll be able to build from. So step 2 says edit the word art font. So the word art font is comic books and literature. So if I click on it once, it's just going to give me my information. So I can make my adjustments here and I can see here. If I double click on that, I can change the name of the course. So if I'm teaching grade 8 RELA, and then I hit return, it's going to modify that text so it fills out the way that I want it to. I can stretch that out if I want, right? Standard normal information. I can change the font to whichever font I want to use. So I'm going to change this to the Fundamento. I'll scooch it up a little bit. Now keep in mind, you also have access to a lot more fonts than sometimes we typically recognize. If I click on the fonts and I go to more fonts, I can grab any additional fonts that exist in Google. So any of the ones that are checked are ones that I already have. So I'm going to add Indie Flower, select that. It's going to make that adjustment. No, that's not one that I want to use. It's not one I like. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Bubblegum Sans. So this is my text. I did it as insert word art. If for some reason I hit delete and I got rid of it completely, so I wanted to add my word art or I wanted to add an element elsewhere, word art gets added by going to insert, scrolling down and going to word art. I'm going to type in 8th grade Rila. It's going to drop it just in the center because it doesn't know where you want it to go. And remember, this is a blank canvas at this point. I'm going to go ahead and shrink that in. I'm going to adjust my font. So I've got my font adjusted how I want it. Now I can adjust my color. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to choose my color and I'm going to do a gradient color. And I'm going to do one of these blues there. That one might be a little too dark, so maybe I'll change that up a little bit. So now I've got my gradient color. I can again change my color for my outline. I can adjust the thickness for it. So it gives it some dimension. All of that standard that we're used to doing. The part that I want to take a look at for this, for word art, take a look at the word art, make sure that it's selected so I've got my information. We're on part 2 at this point. I'm going to go to Format Options, and I'm going to select Drop Shadow. If I just check it, it automatically puts that shadowing around the outside. But if I hit the arrow next to Drop Shadow, now I get to be a little more specific. So oftentimes the shadows are in black, but I can click on the color and I can change it to red. So a lot of times superhero colors are in red and blue. So I'm going to adjust that, and I can adjust the transparency. How much do I want to be able to see it? Have that color see through? I can adjust the distance. How much do I want it to really be reflected out? I can also adjust the angle. Where do I want the angle and how far out do I want it to be? And then you've got the blur radius. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. I'm going to click off of it. And I've got 8th grade in my gradient blue. It's highlighted with a dark blue in the background. And then I've got the really cool red shadow effect showing in the background. So again, when you select that, insert your word art, select your font, your color, your outline, your thickness of the line, your font style. But while it's selected, if you go to Format Options and you add Drop Shadow, it's going to give you that extra effect on the outside. Really cool, really fun thing to do. You can add that in a number of times on your drawing or your syllabus as you go through. So I did the same thing with Jake from T3. So the only thing that I need to do on this one, I'm just going to make a quick adjustment. Oh, that was my background. And you can see how the adjustments have been made. So the next part, step 3, delete the photo and replace with a photo of you, your classroom, or a relevant image to the course. So a couple things that I want to do. First piece that I want to do is I want to grab this Bitmoji and I'm just going to move him over to the side because that's not what we're really looking at this moment. We'll come back to him in a little bit. So I want to replace the picture. So I'm going to hit delete for the picture. Now I need to fill this space in. My Rela class is still going to be comic book based. So I'm going to add in an image. For this, I'm going to grab one from the web. So I'm going to go to Insert, Image, search the web. And I'm going to look for comic book store. Since I had already typed in there last, that's where I had searched for. It's going to grab that information. I'm going to scroll down and find a comic book store that looks neat that I can grab. So I'll grab this one and I'm going to hit insert. Now, keep in mind when it drops in, it's just going to be a huge image. So here is my comic book store. I can drop it down into that location. So I'm going to drag the corners and scroll diagonally with it to kind of fill it in. Now, I want it to be a little more interesting than just this. So cropping can be done a couple different ways. If I double click on the image, I now got these black lines. So if I'm on the corner, I simply drag that in and it's going to crop the image down just a bit. All right, so it's going to take out some elements that are in the image. So I'm going to drag the right side in a little bit because I don't need all of that. And I'll click off of it. So then there's my image. Now I want to stylize this just a little bit. So there's a couple ways that you can do the stylization of a photo or a picture that you've added in. So I'm going to stretch this out so it matches size-wise, looking at my guides, the other pieces. The thing that I want you to take note of, while this has the blue boxes around the outside, so it's been selected, your toolbar changes constantly. This is typically our cropping tool. So that's what we're going to take a look at. But we're not just going to crop this time. I'm going to pull the down arrow. And it says mask when you go to select it. So let's go back. If I hover over top of it, it says mask image. So you know you're in the right spot. I'm going to click the down arrow. And I'm going to go to shapes. I can make my photo take the shape of anything that is listed here. So any of these shapes can now be the shape that's there. It can also be the same for the arrows, for callouts, for equations. Equations aren't going to work for me this time for this particular setup. I don't think I'm going to do the arrows. So let me go to shapes and grab one. And I'm going to do the square with rounded edges from there. And then keep in mind, once that yellow diamond shows up that's right here, that's going to allow me to curve in a little bit more if I wanted to. And now I've got my photo and it's been customized. So again, clicked on the photo, went up to mask image, selected the shape that I wanted it to be, and grabbed that and dropped it in place. I could have easily done the heart and then it would have popped in like that. Let me do undo and put it back where it was. So the other part, repetition, just to kind of get some practice in. You added the image in, you cropped it. Now we're going to add our drop shadow. So again, we'll go back to format options. I'll click on drop shadow. I can make that adjustment just a little bit more if I wanted to. So I get that drop shadow. I'm not going to do anything extra. I'm going to leave it with black and I'm just going to adjust the distance and maybe I'll adjust the angle just a smidge. So that's going to give me a couple different pieces as I go from there. So you get the idea of what we're looking for as you're building. Click and drag and move different things around. There's a really cool website for e-gradients for adding background colors. So for this is simply a box. I went up to my shapes and I drew in a square. And then when I added it, I changed the color gradients. So for this one, went to my color, I went to gradient and I selected custom. And then I selected the first square and then changed the color here. Selected the second square, changed the color here. So I can do it again here. Change the first color and I'll make this one a little bit more noticeable. I'll hit OK, and you'll notice that the entirety of that box changed to a completely different color scheme. So it allows you to build some things from there. If I wanted to add my Bitmoji in, so I still have my Bitmoji off here to the side, I'm going to go ahead and grab my Bitmoji. So in my toolbar, I have my Bitmojis added. I'm going to click Bitmoji. I've already stylized and built my Bitmoji from where I was on my device, my iOS device. And I'm going to grab reading. So I just search for reading. I'm going to grab a Bitmoji. I'm going to right click on it and hit copy. I'm going to come down to my document and I'm going to hit paste. So now my Bitmoji is in place. I just simply resize him onto the page, drop him in where I want him to go, and I'm good to go. So now I've added a Bitmoji to my artwork, added in my text features as I go. A couple quick things that I want to make sure that you take note of. When I added in my contact information, I simply typed in my email address. When I highlight my email address and I hit link, it automatically provides that link, and it recognizes, because it's in email format, that it's going to create an email link. Well, there's our time. We got about a minute and a half left, so I want to make sure I get some other things in. We can add in a link. If I do Twitter, I can add in my Twitter handle or a website. Any of those links automatically are created. A couple little tips. The Noun Project, if you click on that, it's going to take you out to a link to the Noun Project for free icons. The same with Flat Icon. So you can go ahead and build from there. That's where I got the imagery for the computer with the email, the late icon, the AirPods, and the computer. All of these are simply text written inside of shaped boxes where I've edited the background. The grading scale is a little bit different. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. These are each individual boxes. So I drew that. But this one, I'm going to let you go ahead and deconstruct this one so you can figure out what this is. This is actually 3 different shapes. I'll give you a hint. One of them's a circle. The others are this little Pac-Man looking image here. I'll show you super quick. If I draw that circle shape, I'll do it right in the center. And then you'll notice that it's got 2 yellow dots. Those yellow dots are what you adjust, and then you layer each one on there. So there's actually 3 shapes here. One is the circle in the background. Then 2 of them are this Pac-Man looking shape that you're going to go ahead and customize with your colors. And then you match your colors to your squares on the outside for your grading policy. Again, this little purple shape in the background is just simply a triangle thrown on there and then layered to the back, so it's behind everything that's there. Add in your emojis using your emojis for extra elements. Added in the lightning bolt, which is pulled from the emoji tools as well. When you're ready to see what it looks like, you can go to File and Print Settings and Preview. Once I click Print Settings and Preview, it'll take it a quick second. And now I have my completed art project. So as a syllabus, I wouldn't print this one out. It's got lots of color. There's extra elements to it. There's links to it. Simply something that I would post out for students or parents to be able to see what it is that we're going to be covering in the class. If you wanted to, you can print it out and kind of build from there. The other element that I wanted to make sure that we covered, just so that you have access to it, and I'll do this kind of quickly, but we'll make sure that you have the information to it, is how do I insert a video into a Google Drawing? So Clarissa did some drag and drops in her opening session and kind of talked about that. This is a Google Drawing assignment, but this one's a little different. I've got a video. So the video on this, turn the volume up. It's Jake Hartman's The Money Song. It's not going to tell students how to complete the task. So this could be a video that you grabbed from YouTube. It could be one that you created. This is an elementary example. And this is simply going to tell you, kill the volume, it's going to tell you how much each one of those coins are worth. All right, so it's kind of giving you some information. So if you got stuck, you can go back and check it. But then the students are expected to go ahead and drag the coin to the value. So then they know what to do. But then to get the information so they know what it is, it's in the video. The problem with Google Draw, if I go to Insert, there's no video option here. But I really wanted to include a video component to my assignment. So there is a workaround. You're going to start in Google Slides. So from Google Slides, you can add video. So I'm going to start with Google Slides. First thing we'll do is insert a video. So there's my video that we saw. I'm going to hit delete so nothing's there. We'll go from scratch. I'm going to go to Insert, go down to Video. Counting coins, because I already found that. I know where my song is. I wanted a nice short song. I don't want a 15-minute or something long song. I'm going to grab the one I want. I'm going to hit select. It's going to drop it on my page. You'll notice that I have my little blue corners, so I know that it's been selected. At this point, I'm simply going to go to Edit, Copy. Don't have to do anything else with this. So in Draw, or in Google Slides, I did Insert Video. I select the video. I go to Edit, go down to Copy, and I'm done with Slides. Now I'm going to go back to my drawing that I had before. I've built everything in. I just want to add in that video component. From here, I'm simply going to go to Edit and Paste. Copy is not an option. Remember, we don't want to use copy. We just copied from Slides. I'm going to add in Paste. Drag that over. I'm going to drop it in. I'm going to readjust my size so it's where I want it to be. And I'm done. Now my video plays in my drawing. And I've got everything else built just like I did for my drag and drop. So we're heading back over to the main group now. So thank you for joining us for our breakout on instructional design and building a course syllabus.
I hope you enjoyed and got to learn something new during the Follow Me and the Drag and Drop or the Open Studio lesson design. I'm going to be talking really quick about distributing to your students since we are going to be continuing virtual learning or distance learning. It's good to use Google Classroom to send this to the different assignments to your students. So here in this presentation, we have step-by-step directions and screenshots on how to, to share your Google Drawing activities or lessons to your students. So here I have the ones from the Open Session, Open Studio, and a Google Drawing for the drag and drop. Let me move this a little bit here. And I'm gonna go here into my classroom. So I have my Google Classroom already set up, and I'm going to be distributing or sharing this with my students. So here in Classroom, I'm gonna go to Classwork, and I'm gonna click Create. And I'm going to create an assignment for my students. So I've created a Google Drawing and I want to share it with my students as a template so that they can work off of. So here I'll have my Google Drawing activity. It's my title. I can give some directions. But here I'm going to click Add. And then I'll select Google Drive because I have the Google Drawing saved into my Google Drive. So I'm going to click here for Google Drive. And it's going to ask me to go to my recent, or you can look directly in your Drive if you have a specific folder. But Google likes to help us think for us since I've recently gone to my Santos drag and drop or that Open Studio version. So I'm going to go ahead and click the drag and drop and click Add. And here you'll see it attached, and you'll see that there's an option where my students to only view it, so they could see it only, they can't do anything else with it. If you do give them the option to edit file, that means they will edit your version. We do not want that to happen. We don't want them to accidentally make a mistake or accidentally delete anything. So we highly recommend make a copy for each student. So when you click on that and you assign it will be make a copy for each student, and each student will have their own version and their name will be attached to it. So no need for the students to write their name because it's already on there. When you are done filling any other details like the due date or the topic, I like to organize everything by topic. And again, you can always have the option to go ahead and assign it, schedule it, or if you're still working on it, save as a draft. So I'm going to go ahead and click assign. It's going to give that a moment. Still thinking. And you'll see here under my Google Drawing topic, the Google Drawing activity, and you can see that it is already attached for the students. So when they click on it, they're ready to go and use it. I'm going to go back here in my presentation. Again, we have the step-by-step directions on how to share it in Google Classroom. And also in this presentation, we have provided you getting started with drawings. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And it's kind of all the different skills that you can try with drawing. You can see any short video and directions. So for example, if you wanted to know how to add images, you can click adding images. And here you'll see step-by-step directions on the left side and a short video to watch on the right side so that you can review all of that again. And you can click on the arrow on the bottom right here to take you back to the home so that you can see all the different things. If you wanted to know how to do the word art, how to do advanced cropping, aligning text, and on, we have this resource for you in the presentation. Again, it's called Getting Started with Drawings. And all the templates that Clarissa and Jake has shared with you today, it will take you to the slide with some drag and drop, the social media experience, and other uses. Let me go back here. So those are your resources for you, and it will be shared on our T3 website. And also we have one more webinar Wednesday that's coming up next week, the last one. We have Adobe Spark Post from 10 to 11 and G Suite for primary learners from 1 to 2. Again, all the session details are on our main T3 website, bit.ly/T3PGCPS. And also a reminder, stipends will not be offered for attending these optional sessions. But these are great resources for you so that you guys can get ready for the new school year. An attendance form is going to be put in the chat. Please make sure to fill that out. I believe one of my colleagues have already put it in. Yes, it's already in there. So make sure you complete that attendance form to make sure so that your attendance will be marked. Please give us about a week to get your attendance be marked into my PPS. Again, thank you for joining us today for making interactive activities with Google Drawing. These are our contact information: Clarissa, Kim, Marianne, me, and Jake. And this is again T3, the technology training team. You can follow us at Twitter at T3PGCPS. And all of our information and resources are on our main T3 site, bit.ly/T3PGCPS. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, thank you for joining us today for making interactive activities with Google Drawing. These are our contact information: Clarissa, Kim, Marianne, me, and Jake. And this is, again, T3, the Technology Training Team. You can follow us at Twitter at T3PGCPS, and all of our information and resources are on our main T3 site, bit.ly/T3PGCPS. Thank you so much for joining us today.